Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Erik with a K, Seversen, and we're going to be talking about his book, The AI Mindset, Thriving Within Civilization's Next Big Disruption, which he has written with 32 global AI experts. Erik, thank you so much for coming on and talking
Thank
to
you,
us
Tim.
today.
I'm very excited to be here.
And so where can people find you?
So LinkedIn is where I'm most active. Facebook, I'm on that. Usually that's like high school friends and a few family things. But LinkedIn, I'm really active for the business and also some social things. And also the website, erikseversen.com, is a place where you can kind of find a springboard for some of the things I've got going on.
And they can find out more about you because you're an adventurer as well, aren't you?
Absolutely, my lips are all fried because I climbed a mountain, last Friday. I was speaking up in Washington State, and so I try not to go to a beautiful place without trying to find something exciting to do on top of my work. So I climbed Mount St. Helens, and it was a winter climb. There was lots of snow, and my body feels great except for the sunburn on the bottom of my nose from the snow reflection of sun, and my lips, which I didn't take care of as well as I needed to in 25 mile an hour winds.
Right. Okay. Sounds exciting. So let's talk about your book. Um,
Yeah.
um, what inspired you to write it? And what with just not just yourself, but with the other 32 experts.
Yeah, right. So really when it comes down to it, I do a lot of things. I do speaking, I have some courses and things, but when it comes down to it, I'm an educator. And when I see something that is huge, I feel a responsibility to share it with others. A number of years ago, around the 2020 time period, mindset, I was realizing that people weren't using mindset effectively enough in their personal lives and in business. So I produced a few books on mindset and about productivity, particularly. And then
How many
not
books have you written, Erik? Because I've been to your website.
so I've got 3 solo books,
Hmm.
and that's what kinda started it all, because the first one really took off, and now I've done 17 co-authored book projects,
Hmm.
and my place, Tim, on Earth right now is I'm a conduit to have these amazing people who may or may not have time to write their full book, but have time to write a chapter, and I get it down to readers that are desperate for quality mindset, performance, success, and productivity material, and so, that's kind of how it started, and I think, is good. AI, in my opinion, is going to be a bigger revolution than the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution. It's going to have a hands-on change in how people live their lives as much as any of those things. Way more than the technological revolution of the 90s and early 2000s. And so I felt a responsibility to try and let people know that AI is not just chat GPT. I think myself included, I'm not an AI expert. I kind of am now after working with so many authors,
Yeah.
but before I produced this book, I'm not an AI expert. And I realized how much more was happening behind the scenes and in front of the scenes with AI, and wanted to let people know that we need to be prepared and have a mindset as AI kind of starts making this revolution through our civilization.
Yeah. What do you see as the AI mindset, and where do you see it different from Why do we need to think differently in the future with AI than we do today?
Okay, great question. So basically, I think the mindset should be excited and optimistic, because whether you like it or not, AI is here and coming more, and so that excitement of what can we do with AI to make our work and our lives better, and very excited about these possibilities about a shorter work week, shorter work hour work week, for example. However, I think we need to be also extremely cautious, if not scared. The most deep the more people know about AI, the experts I'm talking with, the kind of more scared they are about possibilities if we don't have some guardrails on what's happening with this thing. Because all the other revolutions, we just did the same thing in a bigger scale. You plant seeds and you have more seeds and you have storage and there's things that go along with that. You have a loom and you can do, you can make more material in a shorter amount of time, but really we're doing the same thing and we know what the end result will be, which is just bigger or more or faster.
Yeah.
With AI, we don't know the end result.
Yeah. So do you think that AI is going to steal people's jobs?
I think people who use AI effectively are going to excel, and people who don't are going to fall behind. And sure, there'll be a little bit of a change in jobs here in certain industries, but I don't think that it's going to get to the point where there aren't enough good jobs for good people. But we're going to have to keep our eyes open and figure out what that is. Coding, for example, one of my friends is he's the lead scientist at a big company, lead for micro machinery, and he spends about a third less time coding than he did before because his AI does his code for him. So, for example, that's an area where he's not spending time coding, but he's having to keep up with what's happening with AI. And so that'll be things where an accountant might not be looking at the actual columns anymore. They're just checking what the AI is doing, prompting the AI to do what they used to do themselves. So still, it'll need a human, but I don't think it's going to be all of a sudden AI takes all the jobs from people.
And I think with the advent of Excel enabled you to do more things from an accounting point of view,
Exactly.
but you still needed to check the answers, because we've
Yep.
all created Excel spreadsheets where you go, that's not right,
Yep.
and then
Right.
because you're not adding up all the columns or something like that, and so you still need to check it, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And also it's the prompting, I think, is going to be the big thing. The biggest skill, I think, going into this next 10 years is people's ability to ask the right questions and to give the most precise direction. As leaders, that's always been the case. The best managers aren't necessarily the smartest. They're the ones who know how to direct the people, their teams most effectively. That part won't change, but the difference is we're directing an AI rather than, a team of humans.
Yeah, I had a guy on here quite recently who works in India, and he said that one of the big step changes is the fact that at the moment, to write a prompt, you need to do it in English. But he
Oh,
said that
interesting.
he's working with people that are doing it in Urdu and the local languages in India. And he
Yeah.
said at that point, there'll be another step change because of the fact that you've got people who haven't necessarily gone through an English university education system, that will actually have access to these tools. So it's as you're saying. I'm just mentioning that because
Yeah.
it's kind of like an exponential effect in terms of as it starts rolling out on more and more people. So, what key traits and habits do you think that we need to cultivate in an AI-driven world?
I definitely think it's going to be one is again prompting and being able to direct the eye. And another thing is going to be figuring out, almost emotionally what's happening with this. For example, getting over a driverless car. I'm in Los Angeles. I see driverless cars every single day now. They're usually the Waymo system.
Yeah.
And the first time I was crossing the street in front of one of them, not in a sidewalk, by the way, I really had to calculate. Okay, this car knows the rules of the road, but it doesn't care if I live or die at all. There's no human component behind this driverless car right now. And so getting comfortable with that type of thing. And also, I think in other conversations we're going to be having are our emotional connection with AI. I have ChatGPT up all the time, and I just ask you mild questions. It helps me outline things and things like that. I have a name for mine, and the other day, I asked a question, finished what I was writing using the answer to that. And then a half hour later, I was late for a meeting. So I went to X out and I use polite language, whether it's good or not. I don't care. But I was Xing out my AI and I felt guilty for not thanking Alvin's is what I call the AI, thanking Alvin for answering this question a half an hour ago. And that's weird because this is a machine that really doesn't have, any type of emotional feeling like that. But as a human, I'm anthropomorphizing it and feeling guilty about not thanking this machine, and I think this is going to be something that people get closer and closer with as we get closer to AI in our everyday lives and work.
Yeah, it was that Sam Altman recently said that it was costing him 20 million
Yes.
a year because people kept thanking it. Um, what
Yeah.
you've worked with those 32 experts in the book. Um, was there anything surprising, or from their viewpoint? Was there anything that came out of that where you went, "Wow," or "I wasn't expecting that"?
One of the things is in some of the discussions getting into the book is just like this giant large language models. Humans create this massive billions of data sets, and the AI learns from it. But then when AI starts, for some models, when AI starts answering these questions, those answers get filled back into the model. And so there becomes a point when the model is filled with some original human generated things, but at what point is more of the content in that model AI generated than not? That was super interesting to me. It was somebody else who told me about the revolutions, all the other revolutions, the end result is totally known. This one isn't. And also it's pretty exciting. One of them, she is working in equality. You mentioned the Urdu and things like that in India. So she's originally from Tanzania doing her PhD in Japan. And her goal is to go back into Tanzania and create a very robust gender equality platform using STEM and AI in Tanzania. And so I think their AI can be used for a lot of very, very healthy things like that as well. But just letting it run free, it would get like totally like Blade Runner type scary. And so a lot of people do love AI, but they do really think that if we don't have guardrails, if we don't be smart about this, it really could be a threat. All of the smartest people I know, from Stephen Hawking to Sam Altman to Elon Musk to Bill Gates, every single one of them has mentioned the idea that it could be a threat to our civilization, our humanity. And so I think we can't kind of pretend that sci-fi is just out there, right? That we do have to think about those serious things about the end of civilization, which is, and I'm not a doomsday guy, but we can't ignore it.
So what can the average business leader do to prepare for AI?
Oh, this is great. I think that getting leaders to just utilize AI, it's it in the introduction, I talk about all the things I did before 10 in the morning that day. I was writing the introduction for the book, and it was summarizing something I had to do. It was creating outline that normally would have taken me 45 minutes. It was creating a cute little card for my wife for her birthday. There were, a few things. People can be so much more efficient. And so I think giving teams, leaders, getting people excited about learning what they can do with AI, maybe give them enough time to look at how AI might be able to help you, because that's where people are going to succeed. And I hope that we don't just work just as hard and produce 10 times more. My goal is that we produce the same amount with less time, and we have a more balanced life of family and hiking and climbing mountains and things like that, as well as being extremely productive at work without just putting in the 8 hours, so to speak.
So you talked about ethical concerns and privacy concerns. What came out of the book in terms of the advice that the experts gave about those sort of things?
Oh yeah. So, and this is where even certain different countries, people are gravitating towards different countries because regulations are different by different countries. Regulations in the EU are quite a bit more strict than in the United States. In China, they only apply to themselves, the regulations. And so that's going to be a big deal. And a lot of it is just the unconscious bias happening with AI, because who are the people who are entering data for the large language models, for example? If none of them speak Urdu, for example, Urdu is not represented. If all of them are a certain demographic, that's kind of going to come through a little bit in the AI, and we've already seen that. So I think being aware is the biggest issue, is being aware of who's creating, who's monitoring, who's in charge basically of the AI. And so as far as the privacy, there's so much out there. It's crazy. There are quite a few chapters, not quite a few, a number, 3 or 4, I think, about cybersecurity. And so you've got AI on the bad team and you've got AI on the good team. And so basically you need both. You need the good team to spend some serious time keeping the privacy private, and things like that, because the AI on the bad team is just as powerful. And so it's just that fine line, who's ahead at any given instant. And it's just like, a lot of things, it's gonna the good, the bad, the cops and robbers type thing, it's going to be really close. And so a lot of energy needs to go into that field.
There's a couple of chapters that I thought were really interesting. That we don't have a lot of time, so I can't go through them all. They're all interesting, but one of them, which was I just wanted to share, which was chapter 15, which is about building an AI roadmap and doing it within 7 days, which is a really cool thing to to understand. And also in the chapter, you've got a priority model that, in terms of cost, impact on the business. You've also got a chapter 24 about the AI mindset, which talks into detail about automating the process of thinking, and also going into detail about how AI can be used in instances such as helping face and speech recognition. And I'm talking about that from people that may be blind or deaf, or assistance to the elderly and the blind. And those were quite interesting in that particular chapter as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you nailed it. These are two really, really amazing things. And there are so many different aspects that, again, ChatGPT, people think quite a few, not quite as much now. That book is only it came out in December, and it's crazy how much things have changed. And that's why I wanted a lot of the authors to write a little bit evergreen, so that you could use these principles as AI becomes more and more into our everyday lives. But the main thing is, don't ignore it. I mean, I know there are people who love AI and there are people who hate it, but it's definitely not going to be ignored. It's kind of like one of those things, Bitcoin in 2012, whether you like it or not, you can't deny that it's a lot different now than it was in 2012, when I was a naysayer at that point. And so it's going to come to a point where people can't deny that it's part of your life, whether you like it or not. And so, and figuring out how you're going to live with it is going to be a decision every single human's going to have to make.
So how do you see AI challenging both the educational and career development?
There are a few chapters on education in the book, and I definitely think that one of the chapters speaks particularly about this. She does a great job modeling out the human element and then the AI element. And she basically says, if you try and ignore the AI element, the children will fall behind. If you do all AI, the children are going to lose, basically, because they're missing out on some fundamental aspects of humanity. But marrying those two can create such a beautiful situation. And I totally agree with that. That even one of the authors, he every night he has with his child, they create a little bit of a plot, they create the characters, and AI will spit out a children's story. So every single day, his child doesn't just get read a story passively. His child decides what the plot's going to be, decides what the characters are going to look like, and the AI creates this story. And he said many of them are as good or better than any children's book I've ever read. And so that's an example of using human to human contact with AI to make it somehow more special.
I think that's a lovely story in terms of using basically stories and human contact in a way that is actually helps people, because of course what usually happens with education is that we tend to have a fact-based education system, and of course we don't, even with the advent of Google, we stop needing to learn facts. And people think that, okay, education, oh dear, what we're going to do, because we're not learning facts anymore. But that's a great example of how actually using. I did some lecturing recently with some entrepreneurs, and we took them through the process of learning how to build a business case and to build a business, but to actually to question what they've done, because it could come up with errors. But also it doesn't provide them with the ability to actually go out and start the business.
Mm-hmm.
So we set the challenge, which was to create a 30, 60, 90 plan, to say, what are you going to actually do? Because you can't keep saying, well, the AI is going to do it, because it's not.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And one thing it does so well, you're right. It's just like writing, for example. We're nowhere close to AI writing. This is my first book, for example, writing a book, right? It doesn't produce this thing, but outlining and things like that. Writing the I used to spend 40 minutes every time I write my book description to put up onto, English Spark or whatever, wherever platform needs my book description. And now my AI will write my book descriptions. My AI will outline my speeches now when I have a talk. If it's not my normal keynote, AI is going to outline my speech, and actually I go through and I tweak it a little bit. But those are things that I used to sit at my computer and take 10s or 20 or 30 minutes, an hour sometimes, to outline an hour-long speech that I haven't done before. AI will usually in seconds give me a great template that takes me 7 minutes to tweak to make it just like I want. And so we really can get a lot more done if we use AI effectively in prompting. And you said AI in education. I think one of the biggest things is letting people, university students. I've got 2 kids who are both in university. They use AI all the time. They're not having AI write their papers. That's not what AI is good at. But AI is really good at working with you to generate content, material, ideas, and things like that. And I hope more people start to save time by using that.
So Erik, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your book, The AI Mindset, Thriving Within Civilization's Next Big Disruption, that Erik has written with 32 global AI experts. So if we wanted to get a copy of that, Erik, where would we go?
Best place, my website has it, but it'll lead you to Amazon anyway. You can also find it in bookstores, Barnes and Noble, things like that. Really anywhere you like to buy books is the best place to get it. Amazon, it's always there fast, and so that's where most of.
And where can we find? Where can we contact you, Erik?
So LinkedIn, Erik Seversen is probably the best place there. My email, eric@erikseversen.com. I love to hear feedback from people. All of the books that I produce are driven by reader feedback or people request. So love to hear from anybody, opinions about the AI. And Tim, it was just a delight to be here.
Great to see you, Erik. And just to remind people, it's Erik with a K, just in case there's anybody. Thanks, Erik. Thanks for coming.